me. I'm a coordinator of Pillar 2, Connecting the Region Energy, and the other two coordinators were Goran, who's here, and Biljana, who could not come. Biljana Ramic could not come. Anyway, we will have the regular session. As the organization of the session, we have a keynote speech first, and this will be given by Davide Tavarelli from Nomisma Energia. Great, thank you. Thank you, for the cheering. Then we will have the round table, and the round table has 5 participants. One will be connected online. You will see them because one is Alberto Biancardi, who's here. Then there is Peja Bulic, is over there. Then we have Cipulla, who's connected online. And yeah, Biljana is here. Ciao, Biljana.
Good afternoon to everybody. Nice to meet you all.
Thank you. May I chair in your place, or what should I do?
Yes, Sergio, of course, please continue.
Okay, thank you. I'm sorry you could not make Skopje. It was great, full of life. Next time. Then eventually, we have Goran Nikolowski, who's there. And I forgot one, which is Peter Lusek. Yeah, he's there. Okay. We will go in alphabetical order. Now, regarding the round table, with the panelists, we made a decision. There will be 2 rounds of questions. The first round of questions will have, the panelists will have 9 minutes, to reply or to make their presentation, including the questions from the audience. So you can have questions. The same would apply to Davide Tavarelli. He has 20 minutes, but the 20 minutes include the questions, okay? Then eventually, after the 2 rounds of the round table, I'll make a very short comments and conclusions. So, you know the subject. Energy is in a very critical situation. You saw that energy was mentioned today in the plenary session quite a few times. The countries have different energy policies. They cooperate on some instances. They should increase, we assume, their cooperation facing the energy emergencies that we have and energy security concerns. Energy security as a sort of a conflict with a long-term view which is adopted by the European Union and the European Commission, which is the decarbonization of the energy systems. So how to combine the decarbonization of the energy systems with the recurrent concerns and crises regarding the security of energy supply. This is, the key point. So this is all I want to say. I would give now the floor to Davide Tavarelli. So Davide has 20 minutes, including the questions, to make, his presentation, the keynote presentation.
Okay, thank you. Grazie, Sergio. Should I talk the mic, or do you hear me? Also, the room is quite small. I can't, because I like to stand.
As you...
Yes, do you want... I start, Biljana, with my keynote speech presentation. Please, can you load... it is going to be very dense, around 10 slides, where there is a concentration of there are conclusions of my experience of more than 4 decades of energy policy discussion. I will talk about the last two energy crises, the structure of our energy system in the EUSAIR area, energy dependence and price shocks, and conclusions. When we were talking with Professor Garriba a few months ago about the content of this keynote speech, we were not aware, we didn't know that what we could face in the next months, that is the most dramatic energy crisis ever for the energy worldwide, that one taking place now after the attack of US forces and Israel towards Iran. Now, but let me start from the structure of the EUSAIR energy sector. This is the final energy consumption of our area. And what I want to outline in this stacked bar chart is the importance of transport. And please bear in mind that in transport, 95% of energy demand in transport is covered by oil products. Therefore, we need oil. That is what is missing now from the Persian Gulf. That is the main problem we are now facing, not just in Europe. The second conclusion of today, because the first crisis of 2022 was a gas crisis affecting mostly Europe. Now this oil price crisis, that is a little bit more complicated, is affecting the whole economy of the world. The second point is about the structure of the EUSAIR countries' energy system, is the power generation capacity. It is very fragmented. Each segment has all these different colors in these segments define big differences between the countries. But what it is important to underline here is the fact that this violet color, that is the natural gas reliance on the reliance of this power system on natural gas. And this is the problem, the main problem we have in Italy, we have in part of the rest of Europe, because high gas prices triggered higher power prices. And we have a lot of renewable energy sources in Greece or Italy also, but with a large share of natural gas. Bear in mind that this is coal capacity. This is capacities, not production. Therefore, production is even different. About the share of renewable energy sources, that is important to, again, to claim their importance, because not only they are clean, but they are domestically produced. Therefore, renewable energy sources are the first target to be improved in order to reach independence. And you see that the country that has the lowest reliance on energy from renewable energy sources is Italy, along with Greece, that are also the two countries that are more dependent on imports from abroad, and this is the problem. Of course, for those of you more expert and following more directly the energy sector, these are the shares of energy demand, not of power demand, because for power, the share of renewable is higher. It's close to 40%, for example, for Italy. But this is another story. This is energy import dependency. As I was telling you before, we in Italy and Greece, we have higher dependency because we are also the biggest consumers in this area. And we rely more, being larger, rely more on modern forms of energy. And these modern forms of energy so far have been based mostly on fossil fuels that are imported from abroad. I want to show these long-term graphs with these thick lines because it gives you perfectly the idea of a failure of our energy policy, almost failure. I do not want to exaggerate. You see that Italy has a dependency that is close constantly to 80%. It has decreased. It fell a little bit from 80 to 76, thanks a little bit to renewables. European Union has been stable or in the last few years rising. And what is important for us European and also for the EUSAIR countries is to compare our dependency to that of the United States, that is falling, that the US has became a net exporter, big net exporter to who? To Europe. So that is another problem. I go straight immediately to the last energy crisis, that is an oil crisis compared to the next one where I'm going to talk about is the gas crisis of 22. This is the oil crisis of 2026. That is not so pronounced compared to those of the 70s so far, because there is a huge amount of crude oil, of oil, that is the main fuel of the world, that is missing. As your employee, because you hired him, Fate Birol, the director of the International Energy Agency, Professor Garriba, hired the present director of the International Energy Agency, he said that we are facing the worst energy crisis in the history because of this closure of the Hormuz Strait. However, the prices so far increased not dramatically. There has been no jump in oil prices, and this is a consolation so far, at least for the time being. Because if you see also the red line, it is the same graph of that before. You see that on the red line we had the price of crude oil in real term, in dollars 2026. You see that our 110 is much below that of the financial bubble of 28 that was close when the price was close to almost 180, and also those of the 70s. So there is this paradox that so far the oil crisis has not affected dramatically the oil prices, but what we are expecting is something much worse. This is the picture of the gas crisis that we experienced in 2022 after the invasion of Ukraine by Russia. An extraordinary increase in gas prices. You see that now the gas prices today they reached almost 50 euros per megawatt hour. In 2022, after 3 months from the beginning of the crisis, prices were already over 150. Now they are still close to 50. There are several reasons. Now, what I want to point out dramatically to you, please take note of the prices of China and the United States. United States gas prices are extremely low compared to ours, and the coal price in China are even not reported comparable to our prices. That are the reasons why energy prices in the United States and China and Asia in general are lower compared to those of Europe. This dependency, this exposure of the European system and also the EUSAIR system to the rest of the world, on the international energy markets and to the crisis, results in higher power prices. You see, these are the power prices in the long term. Italy has this dramatic record of being the country with the highest power prices in Europe. Recently, it has been reached by Germany, by UK, not by Spain, because Spain has a lot of renewable, but China and Russia are constantly flat, close to 0.07 euro per kilowatt hour. And you can see another problem here. So because I take the opportunity, I didn't ask Professor Garriba to exaggerate a little bit, but I want to complain about the European energy policy because it is adding, due to its ambitious targets, additional costs in a period of energy crisis. These costs are the cost of the pricing of CO2 through the emission trading system that has brought the from €4 per permit per ton of CO2 to over 70 and close to 100 also. So this is an example. Please take note that the price of CO2 in China is €10 per ton. So in front of these big discrepancies, policy should take action. Should first of all be aware of it. Also, there's another graph that shows you the differences in prices in Europe. All the blue stacks are for the prices of the EUSAIR area. For Germany is on the top, but again, China is the indicator of the rest of Asia. And the United States has these low prices that are feeding a constant booming of the economy and the constant innovation of the economy, also through the artificial intelligence that is created, by the way, troubles that will pave the way to the resurrection of the nuclear industry. But this is another story. Conclusions. We have a too high dependency on energy imports, especially for gas and oil, that are covering more or less 50–60% of our total demand. Am I too late, Professor? EUSAIR countries are in a better position thanks to renewable energy sources, but also to coal that is domestically produced. What are the title of our session is Emerging Threats and Future Risks. What are the emerging threats? A prolonged Gulf crisis with higher prices and shortages, because so far the crisis has not hit as it could hit in the next few months. Future risks to be stuck in oil policy, not overcoming dependency. So when I show you the constant dependency of Italy, of Europe, or Europe rising, by the way, we are not addressing the problem of our energy dependency. This is going to be a problem. What actions I suggest? First of all, to acknowledge the poor results of the past policy. Therefore, we need a reality check in order to have a humbler approach to define new energy policies. Thank you.
Thank you, Davide, for your presentation. Challenging, stimulating questions. I assume we might have a few questions. Can I ask from the floor? I mean, what would you ask Davide for?
Please.
Alberto? Yes, please.
No, the question is connected with the ETS. In your opinion, a way out of this tense situation where there is this gap of competition between Europe and the other continents?
There is no easy way out because the most important thing we have in Europe, and the fact that we are here today confirms it, is democracy. We have a parliament, we have a commission that is our governing entity, and it is not for them, for the present parliament, for the past politicians who took the decision to approve a Green Deal, it is impossible to scrap it. So we have to adjust it. There are some mechanisms like the adjustment reserve mechanism, or the postponement of the phasing out of the free allowances. These are the only way out from this situation.
I have one question. Our countries are moving towards the decarbonization of their energy systems. But given this situation and the vulnerability we can see today, we are wondering, how the transition might happen. Would transition increase for a transient or maybe a long transient at the vulnerability, or the transition would help, let's say, overcoming the present crisis? This is a big question, I understand.
Yes, but you are provoking me. You know very well what I think, but after 40 years of activity in this sector, and after 4 decades of hearing of the necessity to reach independence and transition, I see a very bright future for fossil fuels, by the way. The crisis, unfortunately, and so I know that I'm disappointing you, but we have to continue on the road we took in the past, but not just with the Green Deal of 2019. We took the road of renewable and independence centuries ago. Also for Italy, it was a beginning of last century with hydroelectricity produced domestically because we didn't have our own coal. It was called, we called it the white coal hydro in Italy. And now it is so difficult to build new dams. And desperately, for example, we need new dams, and not just because they produce hydro, but because of the agricultural system, for the floods, and also for pumping storage, for as an instrument for the other renewables intermediate. So we have to continue, but to be more realistic. What I ask you, Professor Garriba, to help us to be more realistic in this energy European policy, because if the Europe is so distant from reality, it's also your fault.
No, thank you.
Biljana, do you have a question?
Davide, nice to see you. Thank you very much for your excellent presentation. I'm very sorry because I'm not here with you and with Professor Sergio Garriba. It's always a pleasure to meet all of you. I must share some views. My personal feelings that we are now in some type of constant risk and threats and on the other hand, because of that, we do not have enough, perhaps, solutions, new solutions in the energy sector, new technological solutions. On the other hand, perhaps our ambitions are too high and not real. And you mentioned, Davide, that perhaps it should be considered phase out. Is it just your opinion, or it is part of official discussion, perhaps in European Commission? If you can share some information with us. Thank you.
Yes, there is a lot of discussion at the European level about, of course, this energy crisis that follows the first one in 2022. And, but at the same time, the positions are very structured and difficult to be changed. And this is due exactly because our democracy, our European community is not working properly, as it would be if this community was a small country, a small region. You see, you're in your country, but also in Italy, we have a lot of differences. It is so difficult to agree on some specific issues. And in energy, where there is a lot of complexity, it's even more difficult. So, having said this, we have to work on it. We have no other solution. I can complain about it all the night, but at the end, we have to do something and to insist, to bring data, to bring analysis, to make efforts, to reach a compromise with the green part of our policies or of our politicians, and also to invest in new technology, new solutions you were mentioning. We might have in the future. I'm looking straight to Professor Garriba because he comes from the nuclear industry. So nuclear, I didn't, it is the first time today that I pronounce the word nuclear, but France, for example, the power system of Europe, that is so important for the reliability and security, is kept in order now because we have the nuclear facility of France. So there are also some interesting developments. Nuclear, for example, is one of these because nuclear is important to reach net zero systems.
Yes, I think you made a very interesting point. Looking at the EUSAIR participating countries, there are two countries, I'm very simplistic in this respect, which are making, say, substantial use of coal. So, I mean, should the European Union require the so-called alignment? I mean, countries should be more or less the same. Those two countries would be strongly penalized, say, in uniforming themselves to the European, say, goals and prospects. Then the replacement of coal would require, first, I mean, from a very practical viewpoint, stranded cost and investment in alternative fuels. So nuclear energy could be one of the options. Of course, renewables are there, but nuclear energy cannot be discarded, say, for the region.
Yes, correct. I forgot to tell you, Biljana, that in Italy we have just decided a few weeks ago to postpone the phase out from the few coal plants we have from 2025 last year to 2038. So in Europe, there is this awareness that coal could be very useful. Therefore, this is a point in your favor, in favor of your country. Because what we are learning after these two crises is that we need flexibility in our power system. And coal, that provides stability and base load factor, could be very helpful. Another question.
Yes, please.
Yes. Good morning, and first of all, thank you for sharing your knowledge. I'm Alberto Tarantino. I'm from Quilterto. I represent the Youth Council. I have not a question. I have more a reflection, because you said that the crisis didn't hit yet, but it can happen. And I'm thinking that we are underestimating the geopolitical value that today energy represents in the international scenario. Because today you said that the European Union is very fragmented, and like what I wonder is, do we really want to become independent? Because I think that energy is starting to become our dependency asset. And like, I don't know if we really want to go through this independence. It's about politics more than innovation.
I do not understand how it could be an asset dependency. Because is it uniting us?
Well, in Europe, we are not united on this point of view. Like the different European countries and the candidate one do not share the same approach, the same opinion. I think about the Green Deal, it fragmented us. And you have talked about the fact that maybe our expectations were too high.
Yes.
I strongly agree. But this fragmentation, how to bring this fragmentation to independence?
Yes, it is extremely difficult, but any country would like to be independent from the energy point of view. There is no doubt. It is just physics and geology and the abundance of resources. You see, it is this very basic, simple element. United States and its president is so bold because they have a huge amount of energy that they are extracting, squeezing out from their soil where there is no one in very Western countries, states. And we are a tiny country. We are a tiny region, the Balkans, Italy, and the Adriatic region. We do not have a lot of energy. That is of modern energy. So we have to work on it, to adapt, to be flexible, to develop new solutions, renewable, hydro, there is such abundance. But this is an interesting point. Thank you.
Yeah, question there. It's the last one because we are going over time.
Yes. So thank you very much for your presentation. I'm Antonella Passarani, Margherita Brussels office. I was thinking about listening also to Mr. Tarantino. What do you think about a possible solution in one single market? I mean, you presented a different independence or dependency from one of examining one country or another one. So Italy, Albania, Montenegro, etc. But what about a solution in one single market? So in Europe or in EUSAIR? Because
Yes,
there
yes.
are different dependency degrees. There are some more dependent on renewable energy, some other countries which are. Do you think that we could find a complementarity for our one single market or for our market in our macro region?
Yes, it is the direction we must follow. It is extremely difficult. The results after this year we are celebrating 30 years from the first electricity directive. It was 1996. What do we achieve with the directive? Not a lot. I can complain. We have France is exporting to Italy. France has a wholesale price today of 40. We are paying today 130. So there are a lot of differences and a lot of snags and hurdles, but that is the direction. And because first of all, in order to, I note that I frighten you. In order to balance my statements, I want to tell you that in the future there is a lot of energy available for everybody, and even a lot of cleaner energy, also thanks to renewable and to nuclear. So the direction to make more united this Europe is an opportunity as far as energy concerned.
Okay, thank you, Davide. I ask for you an applause. Bravo, bravo.
Grazie, grazie.
May I ask our panelists to come, to the table, unless they have presentation they want to see. Well, okay, Alberto, Peter, and go on. Yeah, as you wish. Okay.
Connection.
We have 5 panelists. One panelist is connected online. Is Alessio Cipullo. So you can see the chair there.
Good afternoon.
This is Alessio. Now, I have one question, which is a broad one for all the panelists. Then we will go in alphabetical order. So the first one of the panelists will be Alberto Biancardi, who's on my left. The question is, we have an energy crisis which is affecting, to a different extent, as we saw, from the keynote speech we had a few minutes ago, is impacting, according, their energy structure differently, the different countries. But more or less all the countries are concerned, so the countries may think on how to react, to this new energy crisis. Energy supply crisis might repeat themselves. We saw from the diagram which was presented showing what was happening along, the last 30 years. We had quite a few points of concerns. So how the countries should react, which is how do you see the problems? And finally, how do you see the opportunities for renewed or strengthened, enhanced cooperation amongst the countries? Would enhanced cooperation within this region provide a means in order to react, to the energy supply crisis? This is one of the questions. So first, I mean, all the panelists have 9 minutes each, including questions. And the first panelist will be Alberto Biancardi, who's on my left.
Thank you, Sergio. I have prepared some slides. I think that we are very short of time, but if you can, because I have tried. Why? Okay, I skip the first one because I would like just to underline, coming back to the question that you posed previously, that the word independence is a bit tricky because if we talk about fossil fuels is one kind of dependence, but if you see, for example, this is some figures outlined in the last World Energy Outlook by the International Energy Agency, you see that in the critical raw materials, the situation at international level is highly concentrated. In, I think, if I remember well, 19 on the first 20 critical raw materials, China, for example, has almost a dominant position. Being Italian, I think that to talk about independence in terms of energy is even more difficult because we are a classical industrial system able to transform. So to be fully independent, I think that is very difficult. So the only way is to have agreement to have a good network for balancing the different political areas. Second point, again, coming back to the first speaker, David, some figures from the last, the recent reports by the World Meteorological Organization, one on the world, very worrying news because, fossil fuels, coal, and so on. But unfortunately for us, the last 11 years are the hottest years in all our recent history. And if we talk about Europe, unfortunately for us, is not the European Union, is Europe, including Western Balkans. You see that Europe, unfortunately for us, is perhaps is the fastest warming continent. So if the climate change is a problem for the planet, for Europe is even worse. I think that we have no time, Sergio. I would focus my reflection basically on 3 points, because I think that the only way is to foster our collaboration, to increase the capability to create a network. I have outlined these 5 points: grid connection, market coupling, capacity building, investment outside EU, and aggregated solution. Talking as a representative of GSE, that is the Italian Agency for Energy and Climate, I would focus my few words on the last 3 points. I would underline that I am here as a representative of UNEC. I am chair of the group of experts for renewable energies. UNEC is one of the 5 economic commission of the United Nations. We have a focus on Western Balkans, and for this reason, that for me it's a double pleasure to have the possibility to interact with you. So, first point. I think that one way for enforcing the collaboration among us is to use, for example, the TAIEX and the twinning tools. We here at GSC, we have currently a twinning project focused on statistical topics. I spent here 1 week, 2 months ago. We are working with the Statistical Office of Macedonia. Is one example. Why? Because TAIEX or a twinning can be like, for example, we had a similar project in Africa on a wide area of topics, but we can have some either TAIEX or twinning focus on specific topics. For example, we had an interesting twinning project in Georgia based on digitalization of energy sector, very specific one. And in my experience, when there is a common willingness to create, to have a TAIEX or a twinning, the decision by the European Commission is very fast. So this is, in my opinion, one tool that we can exploit, if possible, with the collaboration of EUSAIR for reinforcing our network, because I think that we have to start from sharing all the information, all the skills. This is my first point. The guarantees of origin, coming back to some decades ago, you know that in the European Union we had the joint implementation, the CDM, the clean development mechanism, in other words, to have the possibility to take into account in our national account the intervention in terms of decarbonization made outside the Union. So we, as a member states, we have to present and to discuss with the European Commission each year a decarbonization plan. Using these tools, we had the possibility to account the intervention, the saving in CO2 emission made outside the Union for our plan. Now it's no more possible, but I think that taking on board the very interesting opportunity to decarbonize the economies outside the Union, using, for example, the guarantees of origin, it might be a real interesting opportunity for you, for people living outside the Union, to get money for make investment in another country, and for us, as a country belonging to the European Union, to take advantage of this investment outside the Union. We, as GSE, we are the body that manage the guarantees of origin in Italy. This is a possible other way for enforcing our collaboration. Third point is the role of agency in itself, because I think, coming back to a discussion that we had some minutes ago, that, okay, you need tools like incentives, certificates, ETS, and so on, but this is interesting if you have the possibility to standardize the product. If you have, for example, to install a PV plant, you can pay for the difference between the cost of a fossil fuels-based plant and the PV plants. But in my experience, when the system becomes more and more complex, it's not so easy to identify a simple tool. You have to identify a complex intervention. In Italy, we are experiencing, for example, the energy community. So people that put together money, energy consumption for decarbonizing. It's not easy, but I think that this might be another point for future collaboration, because the role of an agency is to flank the local authorities, the citizens, for identifying which is the best way for installing the new technologies. This is not easy, I repeat, but is a possibility. And again, I would be very honored to share our experience, the experience of GSE in this field for easing the decarbonization process in North Macedonia and all the Adriatic and Ionian region. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any question from the floor? I have one question, which is very simple. I mean, we have in Italy this agency for the management of the energy system. I mean, we call it GSE. I'm trying to translate into English, I say. what this agency might be. Do you make any attempt to transfer the experience we have in Italy to other countries?
Yes, yes, we have this possibility. For example, talking again about a twinning project, we had the project in Albania, because in Albania they established a new agency focused on energy efficiency. We work with them for transposing our experience. I think that why an agency can be useful, because it's a body that is not like the regulator that define only the frame or the rules, but work with firms, local authorities for building up new systems. This can be an interesting way. It is a sort of third way between regulation and the activity that usually any firm has to manage.
Thank you. I'm saying this because this agency in Italy is managing the so-called certificates, the green, the white certificates, the permits, ETS, I mean, all you can see. So we have decentralized in a public, say, is a public-owned, say, agency. I mean, in order to keep, say, the system under control. So I wonder if other countries may like the same idea, or each one is going its own way. I understand the Frank Sinatra way is dominant. I mean, each one on its way. Questions? If not, I go to the next. Yes, next speaker was Peter Bulic. I mean, yeah, you need the pencil.
I don't need for the presentation. I will try to open on the topic, try to comment on the topics opened by Davide and Alberto, and try to open other topics related to.
Peter, can you say what your organization are doing?
Yes. So we are involved for 4 years, more than 4 years now, in master plan of EUSAIR networks, but also recently we finalized the rapid assessment for renewables and priorities in Adriatic Ionian region. So until now, 2 projects have been realized, which gave some strategic initiative to EUSAIR, based of course on professors' enthusiasm on this. So, but as I said, I wanted to, because David's opening words were very interesting for me. He put many interesting data which need to be commented. Also, Alberto did it further. So, first thing I want to comment, from the very beginning of my participation in the EUSAIR initiative, we are faced with some kind of crisis, energy crisis. It's always related to either oil, either gas, but it's always some crisis. 4 years, we see each year that something happens. And I think it will continue. It will not stop. It will be constantly repeating, maybe on other parts of the world, but it will repeat always. So it's very important to have this discussion and to see how to deal with this, because we cannot solve it overnight, and we have to struggle it constantly. What was very interesting for me is that point Davide make regarding sense of reality. Sense of reality of the time where we are living now, and the sense of reality of EU policies which are imposed both in EU, but also the EU accession members, which we are, so Serbia, Macedonia, I'm speaking about the region. And we have, for example, now, we are talking about one market, unification, to have one market, and then we have the topic of CBAM. where EU wants to deal with carbon leakage, and they introduced CBAM obligation on electricity. And you have negative implications immediately. You have the situation that, based on the Energy Community Secretariat report, which was issued 2-3 weeks ago, in first quarter of this year, there is almost 26%, to be exact, 26% of reduction in exchanges between EU and non-EU countries of the region, which are members of the Energy Community contracting parties. And it was very interesting to see that average price in the region was 30 euros per megawatt less than EU. And EU, I'm not sure, is it a way to force us to abandon coal, to install renewables everywhere? Okay, it can be a mechanism to prevent carbon leakage, but is it really has some sense of reality? We cannot do it overnight. We are seeing enormous increase in renewables. I think in Macedonia especially, yeah, in Serbia also, in all countries in the region. But this is a process which cannot be solved overnight. So we need time. We need time, and we need technical and financial assistance we are not receiving. So you mentioned guarantees of origin. So CBAM is not only introduced for fossil fuels electricity, but renewables electricity. How do you expect that someone will invest in renewables if it's practically treated the same as fossil fuel generation? It's a nonsense. Nowadays they are thinking, of course, to make consumption, to revise CBM, which is really necessary. It's an urgent need to revise CBM as it is now. Maybe, of course, we have today a representative of energy community to also comment on this. But it's an urgent need for this region, and to be more realistic in terms how this default emission factors will be determined, and also because guarantees of origin mentioned by Alberto are useless. We cannot work on decarbonization. We cannot prove anything under this mechanism. So if we are going to impose these measures, these policies measures, without thinking on all possible effects which can have, we will face the fragmentations of our market, and we will prevent any development of renewables. Again, when we are speaking about decarbonization, that always means shutting down our coal plants, which me personally, I do not agree, because we will face problems which we cannot solve in terms of stability of our system, which cannot function without these coal assets. We don't have sufficient gas. We are, of course, we are working on diversification, nowadays also with Macedonia, which I think it's a very good move. But there is no sufficient gas on the market to satisfy all the needs which we have. So from one side you have abandoning Russia and going to another dependency, US and other exporters of LNG. Then you have the crisis in the Middle East. So we are changing dependencies, and when you're not thinking only about commodities, oil, gas, then you have a dependency on equipment, which is also imported from China. We have the industrialization of whole Europe nowadays. When you are thinking about renewables, then you will import solar panels from China, you will import inverters, you will import batteries, and again, you are again a dependent. So energy independence is not only related to commodities, to oil, gas, do we have homegrown electricity, it's also very related to the equipment, to the people, to all our resources which we have. Also, what I mentioned to forgot, maybe Biljana also can comment on this, because our crisis in oil started this autumn with maybe this is very interesting for you, Professor, also. Our crisis started in autumn when OFAC, US administration, imposed sanctions on all Russian-controlled companies. So this means oil industry of Serbia, which is majority owned by Gazprom and Gazprom Neft, which caused us a lot of problems, and which we, of course, dealt successfully, but it was very, it is very concerning because it's still not resolved. We got some prolongation of these deadlines, and we started negotiation with Hungary oil industry MOL, and we are still not sure how this negotiation process will end, and will they buy our oil industry, and how it will be in the end. So a lot of uncertainties is ahead, but one very interesting data I read the other day after finalization of first quarter of our statistical office issued a report where first time hybrid cars overpassed fossil fueled cars. So few months only of this timeline, 43% of new hybrid cars were bought from the beginning of year, and 42, it's small difference, but it's the first time that hybrid cars suppressed fossil fuel cars. But this was led by this concerning events which affected our oil and oil sector. And to conclude, I think Davide, one of his slides, he said this crisis, oil crisis, is not so big like the one in December of 22, but I wouldn't agree. It occurred by end of February, when the winter on North Hemisphere is ended. What would happen if it occurred in November, or, you know, that's something to comment further. Yeah.
Thank you. I have a very short question. Do you think that improved interconnections in the electricity, in the power grid, might help interconnection between the countries?
Yes, that's urgent need, Professor. That's an urgent need which we have to solve. We have problem in the region. We have ideas, we have projects, but the operationalization of these projects and to have timely developed and bankable projects is not going successfully. So we have projects which started 15 years ago and are still not finished. So it is a slow process which has to be planned. In my opinion, solution for this is that the projects are not managed by only one party. You know, for example, you have now Serbia applying for its own part of Trans-Balkan corridor. Montenegro has its own, you know, and that prevents, you know, successful execution. Always one party has is maybe quicker in some things and in slow down in other, and that in the end we don't have executed projects. So mutual cooperation and improvement in operation of realization of the projects is crucial.
Thank you. Is there any other question, further questions? Do you have? No one? Okay. Thank you, for your reply. May I go to our next panelist, is Alessio Cipullo. You can see him on the screen. He's coming from CESI, which is a technology innovation organization owned by the Italian major, say, power and utility, which is Ionian. But Alessio may tell you much more about that. Thank you. Alessio, please go on. We can hear you very well. We can hear you.
Okay. Can you see my slides on the screen?
Is there a presentation as well?
Yes.
Yeah, but we have there, say, our officers. Yeah, they have to find it. Yeah. I was checking that, but
Okay. There we go. So I guess you are projecting.
yes,
Thank you
yes,
so much.
we can see. Perfect. We can see very well. Is there any question from the floor? Yes, I have one question. Yeah, you are underlining the importance of the connections through this region, or say, towards the European power market and from other power markets which will be connected. You assume Middle East, Turkey, other countries who may wish, or say, to be, I mean, in some way linked. Which should be the organization taking care of the problem you are underlying? Is ANSO, who is the organization? Yes, thank you. So we thank you for the reply. We now go to our next panelist, who's Peter Lusek. I mean, he's here. Peter, thank you to your.
First of all, thank you for the warm greetings and also the discussion so far. I'm Slovak by origin, so I might be not that enthusiastic as the Italian opening, but please bear with me. I'm anyway happy that I'm here with you. So what I was doing during the session, I was taking notes of what was discussed today. It was I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, it was the diversification, it was the infrastructure, and it was the cooperation. These three pillars, let's call them, we heard today. And I heard that basically Europe is not working properly. I would disagree with this, and I would use the graph we saw at the opening speech with the gas prices. I mean, Europe working properly in the gas industry, because I come from the gas industry and I do the gas integration, gas market integration at the energy community. So let me return to the statement: Europe is not working properly, and the unified market of Europe. In gas transmission, we already have a unified market in Europe. There are rules which are valid in every single country, and they are followed. And basically, the shippers and the market reacts to that. And actually the proof of that the market reacts to these rules is the prices. We saw in 2021, 2022, the prices were 10 times the average, 10 times. Last year or this year, it was twice the price. And the invasion of Russia to Ukraine caused 10 times the price increase. American and Israel operation in the Middle East cost twice the price increase. And so you are referring to exactly, that's the thing. And why this happened is basically because Europe took action, coordinated action, and that's the implementation of new sources. In that time, where you see the spike, that was 45% was the Russian gas in Europe. 45%. Now it's 13. We heard today that the LNG is increasing. Yes, that's right. We have the US source mainly. It's 1/4. In February this year, it was 60% of the LNG was US. So the diversification is kind of tricky. Let's say we heard it today. We have the other sources, of course. We have Qatar. That's the mainly of interest of Italy and Belgium in Europe. This is a tricky part. Still, it's 7% of LNG comes from Qatar and 4% of overall gas consumption in Europe. So when we see the spike, I believe that point there, it's the Europe is working, the market is working. So what I think, I work before and now with the implementation of the European acquis in the contracting parties. Contracting parties are North Macedonia, Serbia, and also Bosnia and Herzegovina when we talk about and Albania, but there is really limited gas industry. So what we try to do is to implement the energy acquis from Europe into the contracting parties, and I believe if we are able, this will be the result. Because today we see, when we are in the North Macedonia, we see the country has only one interconnection point. There is only one pipe going from Bulgaria to North Macedonia. The country is fully reliant on one source. Or when we talk about the infrastructure, when we talk about the diversification, when we talk about the source of the gas, we did short research back at the Secretariat, and in 2024-2025 gas year in North Macedonia, we estimate it was 17 to 40% Russian gas. When we move a bit further, when we move to Serbia, it's 86 to 91% of Russian gas. And when we move even further to Bosnia and Herzegovina, it's 100. So that's the example what can happen if there is no diversification of sources, not connected infrastructure, and no cooperation. Yesterday, I was talking to our partners here in North Macedonia, and we were discussing the Greek interconnector and potentially also the Serbian interconnector. And that's the perfect example of how this thing should work. We would have the infrastructure, we would have diversified sources, and we would have coordination of the countries, cooperation. So let me, if I may, I would react also to another, to the guarantees of origin, for example, when we talk about the renewables. I personally believe we have the gas infrastructure, the renewable gases, when we talk about biogas, we can easily feed it in. The infrastructure is there, it's proved, it worked for decades. We can use the renewable gases, basically the biomethane, feed it in and work. My dear colleague Carolina, she says basically that the North Macedonia has sun in its flag. So where is the better opportunity for a country to work with renewables than North Macedonia with the sun in the flag? And basically it can be used for electricity generation, for biogases generation, and that fed into the infrastructure. And I believe there was a question. It's the renewables and the fossil fuels are complementary. We see if we have only the fossil fuels, imported fossil fuels, it's tricky. It can get hard very easy. But if we have the renewables, the spikes might be lower, and vice versa. For example, we have the storages this year in Europe depleted to below 30%. That's basically the 9-year low in the last 9 years, and it was caused by low renewables. So we see if the renewables are not working, there is a gas to do the job. It's reliable, it's there, it's readily available. So they complement each other basically. They are needed both. So I agree with Davide, who says that there is a future for fossil fuels, and I believe it's gas. It's relatively clean. It's easily manageable relatively. The infrastructure is there, and the prices we see are getting manageable as well so far. There is one thing I didn't hear today, and that's when we talk about energy, and especially in gas, it's the emission mitigation. The infrastructure is huge, and the emissions are also big. The International Energy Agency estimates that through Hormuz, the trouble these days goes 100 BCM a year. And the same agency estimates that the emissions from infrastructure, gas infrastructure, is also 100 BCM. And emissions from flaring, it's another 100 BCM. So basically, if we mitigate the emissions, we are able that would be another option for energy security. Not only diversification, infrastructure, but also emission reduction. And basically, the agency says that 15% could be done like that, and 70% could be done with the existing infrastructure, existing technology, but not that quick. So, yeah, I believe that's. I had a presentation, but I thought it would be better to be interactive and organic. So, if you would have questions, I would be happy to respond.
Yes, I have a question.
Yes, please.
No, you are not a question, a statement. No, you are correct. I should have admitted before that the market, I must enforce to use a word that I do not like. The market, the gas market of Europe, after the experience of 2022 and the following years, is more resilient, a word that I do not like, but it is true. At the same time, however, it is true that it is working better. Also TTF, the futures markets, finance. At the same time, domestic production that has disappeared, especially from Groningen, from the Netherlands. And the fact that the gas price is so much lower in the United States. And then another point, but this is for the next year, in Trieste maybe. Next year we will debate about Norway. But I am very upset with that we have to conquer Norway and to take fair gas for us. Okay? Sorry, I apologize.
Yeah, I have, thank you.
I take it as a statement.
Thank you, David, for the point. I have another question, which, we had a problem within the EUSAIR while preparing our action plan for the years from 24 29. So we had the gas, within the chapters that refer to energy. And the European Commission wanted to play down, the role of gas by saying, no, gas is a fossil fuel, it doesn't emit CO2, we cannot rely upon natural gas as a transient fuel. So finally, we found a formula, which is a joke, a transient within the transient. Did you find the same problem with the energy community?
Yes, there are multiple layers to that issue, because we see that the region needs one of the pillars, and that's the infrastructure. However, there is no European money for that. As you said, the Commission doesn't think the European money should be invested in only fossil infrastructure if it is applicable to, if it can accommodate other gases and do other things, yes, but just for a fossil fuel, no. So the message from the Commission is very clear, no fossil fuels. However, for me, working in the industry, personally, I cannot imagine keeping the standard, the living standards for now, without the fossil fuels, at least natural gas, let's call it one of the least polluting. So it's a fine balance, I believe. We at the Energy Secretariat, we do both. We promote the renewables, the electricity, but we also give a big importance to gas and renewable gases as well. So, yeah.
Thank you, thank you. Now we go to...
I have only one question, because I only partially agree with Peter, because I'm not sure that only we would have double of pricing because of the crisis in the Middle East if it came in November. It came on 28th of February. That's practically end of winter in Northern Hemisphere, and we are aware that gas in Europe is spent mostly for heating. So we had maybe luck with the timeline of these events, and maybe, I'm not sure, is there any analysis in Energy Community Secretariat which would show differently, that the price would stay only double as it was if it was vice versa, if it maybe was in November or December, in the middle of the winter?
Yeah, I agree. We don't know what would happen if it came like in the high heating season. You are right. I was reacting to the data we have available, and for such an analysis, saying what might happen, unfortunately, we don't have such a thing. We do some work. We are not the analytical secretariat, but for sure we do some analytical work. But this one, for this question, we didn't do, unfortunately. And for the CBAMs, it's not my area of expertise. So perhaps then I could connect you to the colleagues who do the CBAMs at the secretariat.
I know them.
Okay, very well, very well.
We disagree.
Yeah. Could be, yes.
Yes, thank you, Peter. So we have our last panelist is Goran. You can see Goran there. He's a colleague of the three of us, a coordinator of the pillar number 2, connecting the region, energy. I mean, so he has all the responsibility of our policy declarations. Goran, you have the floor.
Thank you, Professor. Concerning I'm the host, I will be the last on this panel. First of all, to welcome everybody in my birth city, Skopje, the city of history, tradition, and solidarity, and to wish everybody pleasant stay here. I will stick to all these 3 pillars concerning the energy security, the diversification, regional cooperation, and system resilience. I will share our experience in these topics. Concerning the diversification of electricity sector, as my Serbian colleague said, that in the past 3 years, we have implemented in our network more than 1 gigawatt of PV solar plants, which reduced the import of the electricity for our country from 30% to almost 2%. In addition, prior to start of this war in the Middle East, we have started operation of this existing oil pipeline heading from Greece to Skopje, which is distributing oil derivative diesel, which has succeeded to lower the price of the transport during this crisis situation, where everything goes up, including the fuel for the transport. And in combination with the governmental, fiscal and regulatory measures, we have succeeded to have the lowest price in Europe concerning the oil derivatives. In addition to this, we have helped to export some 25% of the quantities to our neighbors, and which also make amortization of this crisis fiscal implications in their economies too. As my colleagues from the energy community said, we have only not diversified the gas sector here, considering that we have only one gas pipeline with Bulgaria. That is resulting in that we have in the most expensive gas price in the Europe according to Eurostat. In this context, we have ongoing activities for the diversification also of the gas sector. This gas interconnection with Greece will be put into operation in June next year, and we have announced public announced for the construction of the gas pipeline with Serbia, which will be operative in the first quarter of 2028. So the diversification not means only enhancement of energy security, but it means proving affordable energy to the economy and the citizens. Concerning the regional cooperation, I must stress that our cooperation with Mr. Professor Gariba has started here in the second century before the Christ, considering that the first name of the Skopje is Skopje, which is a Roman settlement, connected with this Way Ignatia route. So this strategy practically is continuation of this cooperation, and by this mean we are sharing the same goals as our ancestors. Considering that we have finalized the risk assessment of our gas sector with the GRC, a lot of technical challenges has been identified in this region and the gas infrastructure in this region, considering that that is from the time of the perestroika during the 80s. So in this context, in last Friday, we have signed a cooperation agreement with Greece and Bulgaria, where we were also joined in this vertical corridor as equal partners, and with this mean we have increased their resilience and sustainable deliverance of their services to the Central Europe, considering that the vertical corridor is delivering gas from the LNG terminals from Greece to the Central European countries. Concerning the system resilience, we have in our NCP, as Peter mentioned, of some 4,000 megawatts of additional RES capacities. But in order to be realized this, there must be infrastructure. So these calculations for us is that we will need till 2030 some 250 million euros in investment of infrastructure and storage in order to absorb all this sun cost-free energy into our energy system. So all these planned investments are worthless if there is no system balances, flexibility, and storages. That will be from my side. Thank you. An additional one about the CBAM, I forgot to mention that all this regional cooperation must be played on fair conditions and rules, considering that this CBAM is taking into account all these countries with some, we don't know where they have found these fossil fuel intensities. For example, for our country is 88%. If you see that out of 3,000 megawatts, we have 2,000 megawatts of RES, it is not known how they have calculated this fossil fuel intensity of our country. Or the vice versa, for example, in Albania, this fossil fuel intensity is zero, although they are buying electricity for balancing from all electricity produced from coal. So this must be also settled with the European countries about this cooperation to be on fair conditions, and also must be taken into account for this regional competition and cooperation to be also included the solidarity mechanism. The solidarity mechanism is excluded for the energy community parties, while for the European countries, this is the core of the energy security. Thank you.
Thank you, Goran. Do you have questions to Goran?
So
Yeah.
yes, I have a question very quick because we are
Very quick. Yes, yes, yes.
So gas is going to be your fuel destination. Is it correct? Okay, I'm glad.
Excuse me, please. What about hydrogen?
Hydrogen.
Hydrogen.
What
No.
about hydrogen?
Well, we are on a short, mid-term prospect. There are points that were not discussed. If you see in Skopje, there are no electric vehicles, while in Italy, I mean, they are becoming, say, a fraction of the system, and they add resilience. While not having electric vehicle, there is a lack of resilience in the transport sector, where oil is important. I mean, the point was made by Davide and by Goran indirectly. So these are, I mean, all issues that we can have in the conclusion, but we are over time.
Peter
So,
wants to say something about it.
Peter, yes, do.
If you don't mind, I was pointing to Goran because what the North Macedonia is building with Greece, it's already hydrogen ready. So they are building hydrogen ready pipe from Greece. So for now, it's for gas, but hydrogen is coming slowly. It's a long-term, let's say, destination. For now, it's the natural gas. For the future, the infrastructure is getting ready. So yes, it's happening.
Just to add also, we are also planning to construct this gas interconnection with Serbia also with 100% hydrogen. Considering that the price difference of these natural gas pipes and the hydrogen pipes is something 7 to 8 to 10%. It's not big difference. So it's better to place into the earth this hydrogen 100% ready pipelines than to be changed in the future. So we are practically laying the basis of this hydrogen backbone in this region, going from Greece through our territory, through Serbia to the Central European countries in order to be joined on these pan-European networks. Also to be stressed with this crisis, with these prices of petrol, there is a calculation that these hydrogen-fueled cars, based on the energy efficiency of the motor, is the price of per kilowatt hour of hydrogen is consumed by the cars is less than €1, and the petrol is more than 1.2 euros. So at the moment, hydrogen usage is cheaper than the petrol. So it's reality happening now, not in the future. Thank you.
Thank you for your points. Does Biljana want to say something?
Yes, thank you, Sergio.
Thank you, Biljana. I would like to thank, the keynote speaker, the panelists, Pedia, Goran, Alessio, Peter, and Alberto, who's are here. You did a great job. We started late, and we have to close, this session, because we are over time, and there will be, other people joining, other delegates joining this room. So thank you very much. You will find some conclusions I'll try to make, but I'll spare the time. I'm not telling you about what you will see. Anyway, you will be able to make comments, additions, whatever you wish. Thank you again, and thank you for those who are in the room.